Hello, how are you? Happy 2025. Welcome back to my channel. And today I was thinking about whether I wanted to do a January TBR or a books in 2025, and I think I'm going to do that. Last year I did a books I want to finish in 2024 back in like October or November. I didn't really do a very good job of keeping up with it. I probably read 2 or 3, maybe 4 books off of the list. I think I'll show you over here what it was and how many I read. And so there's a lot of those books that I want to carry over, but there's a lot of books that I want to prioritize now in early 2025 so I could, try to read it before the end of the year. I am currently using the Quirky Collective book journal, and I really like it. They have a section in here which I showed in a video in Bookmas, which challenges. They have like 3 challenge options, so I did do a 25 books in 2025 on here. So if I read off of anything, it's going to be off of here. I really like this book so far. I think the only thing I've noticed that it does not have is a series tracker, but I've been using it to keep up with my TBR for the month and my TBRs for the year and quick reviews. So I think it's been kind of helpful, and I really like that because I do like to write reviews on Bookstagram. And then, of course, I talk about them when I do my monthly wrap-ups. And so before I do my December wrap-up, which I will have next week, I just wanted to tell you what I wanted to start reading in the beginning of the month, because I think I'm going to try to do some sort of reading vlog. So let's just hop into it. These are the books I want to read in 2025. I want to read Manacled, the fanfiction. I downloaded it before they got rid of it on AO3, but I'm sure if you look it up online you can find a Kindle edition somewhere. It is a Harry Potter fanfiction, a romance between Draco Malfoy and Hermione. I heard there is a lot of trigger warnings, so do not read it without going into them if you think you're going to be potentially even triggered. I think it's supposed to be a play on The Handmaid's Tale, and I'm excited. It is a full-fledged book though. I read the amount of pages and it's going to take me a really long time to get through it. Some people divide it into 3 books and some people have it like one giant file. So I do have it formatted both ways, and we'll see how I end up reading it. Probably I will end up doing it in parts because it's easier to digest when it's just not one giant book of reading, even though you do go through books faster through Kindle. The second book is The Wedding People, and I didn't realize I put this on my list, but I'm really excited that I did because that is my current read. I'm about 20 pages in, so that's very exciting for me to be able to check it off at the end of this month. The third book I have is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It is supposed to be, I think the premise is these people go into a coffee shop, and when they drink their coffee, it takes them into the past, and they're in the past as long as they're drinking their coffee, and once their coffee is done, they come back to the present. I know it has had like 4 books or maybe 5 already in the series, but they're a huge hit. And I'm excited to read something a little different, a little out of my comfort zone. It's very literary fiction, and I like that. Number 4 is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is a book that I've had on my TBR for so long, but I have a pile of hardcovers, and I don't know why when I'm looking through my TBRs for the month, I tend to skip over those books. The reason that The Wedding People even made it, because that is a book of the month book, so it is a hardcover, is because I recently received it, I think, a couple of months ago, and after I saw it was being read, I bumped it up right away. But people don't talk about Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow anymore. It is a book from like a year ago or 2, and people just, I don't know. But I want to read it. It's like supposedly a video game-esque fiction, like about 2 best friends who are writing the script for a video game, and that premise sounds so interesting. So I'm hoping to read that soon. I have The Night Circus on here. People say if you like Caraval, you will love The Night Circus, and so I really liked Caraval. It was a great YA fantasy with the play on the cards and the way that the magical is very whimsical. I think I mentioned this in my favorite books of 2024, but it gives me The Cruel Prince in the way that the words are formed and the way that it's written, not based on plot, not based on like the characters or anything like that, but just solely based on the same feeling it gives me. And so I think her name is, what's her name? She's a famous YouTuber, a Clockwork Bookshelf or something like that. Clockwork Reader. She really raves The Night Circus, and even though we don't have the same literary taste because she's really into like classics, and like true literary like works, I think I'm going to like it. A lot of people have raved about that book outside of her, so that's gonna be on my list. I have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I read The Martian, I want to say now about 2 or 3 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to like it because I'm not generally a fan of science fiction. I've read a few science fictions here and there though, where it's like science fiction that borders on like a dystopian, and I always enjoy those. I'm not sure what this one's about, but I enjoyed The Martian, and I feel like they look like space-esque stories. So I think that I'm going to enjoy that one as well. I have Emily Wilde's Map of Other Worlds. People say that if you like The Cruel Prince, you will like this story because it has to do with fairies and it's very whimsical. But I'm not sure if it's going to be my cup of tea. I feel like there's a lot of mixed reviews online about it, and so I think that probably I will give it a try. I know that the second one came out semi-recently, so it did well enough to get a second book, but I'm not sure if... I mean, the goal is to try to read it this year, right? So that is the next one on my list. I have Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. That is my goal to read even this month. I have heard a lot of good things about this romance, even though I heard there's also some trigger warnings that I shouldn't go into it thinking it's going to be a lighthearted, fluffy romance. And so I'm excited. I didn't know that it was heavier, so I'm kind of glad that I read somewhere someone mentioned that fact before I hopped into it thinking it was going to be a cute, cheesy romance. I mean, the cover doesn't give me that, but you never know. Don't judge a book by its cover, even though I do it all the time. Okay, so next up we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is another one of those hardbacks that I've been wanting to get to, and it's just like, if you saw my TBR bookshelf video, you will see that I have like a pile of just hardcovers there, and when I'm going through it, like I said, I just glaze over that section and I just end up skipping it every time, and I think that book is literally at the very bottom. So I'm making it a point to read most of my books. I'm trying to read like 3, maybe 4 of these books every month, and so I gotta work on this TBR. I don't want to overconsume. Like, I love collecting and hoarding books, but I also want to read these books and read what I own before buying another stack of like 7 or 8 books at Barnes & Noble or wherever. I do have a few pre-orders coming in this year, because this year, of course, there's so many releases that I want to read, but my goal is to read what I have. And it's kind of funny, so I have 2 book clubs this year. I have an in-person book club and an online book club. My online thriller book club, I typically borrow them on Libby. I'm very lucky usually with them. But my in-person book club, it's just the first one, so I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty excited because it's a book that I actually own already, and so I won't have to go out and buy a new book. It'll actually just push a book up to my on top of my list. Sorry, big sidetrack there. The next book is Dune Messiah. I read Dune, the first one, last summer. I want to say in like August or September, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great classic fantasy, science-y, dystopian. What is it? I don't even know. It is a good book. It's old, so I feel like a lot of more modern fantasies took a lot of inspiration from Dune, and it was kind of cool after seeing the movies, all of the extra depth and plot that the book gave. So I'm excited to see kind of where it continues, because the first book does kind of end not on a cliffhanger necessarily, but like what happens next, like you want to know, you want to keep reading. They're a little heavy to digest, the words and like the world building, not the world building itself, it's like the characters and the culture of the world is very unique. So you have to be in the mindset to be prepared to like pay attention, at least initially. Once you kind of dive into it, it's a lot easier to understand everything. But I feel like that's with most fantasies, when there's heavy world building, you just have to pay attention a little bit before you dive in and like you get all of that extra. So that's on my list. I want to continue the Red Rising series, so the second book in the series is Golden Sun. The first book was very Hunger Games. It read like a fantasy, so I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to see where our main characters from the first book continue. I know at some point it kind of just switches perspectives of different characters, so I hope it doesn't happen here, because I'm still very like into our main character from book 1, but we'll see what happens. I'm not sure. I finally want to get to Perilous by Lauren Roberts. Sorry. Lauren Roberts wrote 2 books and a novella. And I know the final book comes out this year, which means that now is my chance to get through the books. I just didn't want to have another book where I started reading and then I'm waiting. Kind of like a show. I kind of prefer the show to be over, or the season to be over, and then I binge the whole show, because I could pay attention to it more and absorb everything without any breaks. Sometimes when you read so much, you forget what happens, and I'm not it's not that I'm not big on rereads. It takes a lot for me to want to reread a book. Like I know, for example, I'll reread Throne of Glass at some point, and I'll reread Emily Henry's books, but there's so many books I want to read that I haven't read yet, and so it's a very interesting feeling. So I want to just kind of read Powerless, get through it all the way through. So that's on my list. I want to read Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. I've read the first 3 books in the Magnolia Parks universe so far, and there are, I believe, 2 more. It's the Daisy Hates The Great Undoing, and then Magnolia Parks. I forgot what the last one's called, but there's one more. And I know there's going to be more released, but they're just Daisy stories, and I kind of just want to get through it. This one's a lot shorter than the last Magnolia Parks one, which was Long Way Home. So I'm kind of, like, that's good. I can get through it, even though I feel like it's very interesting. Her books are so chunky and so big, and the words are not large, but I eat those books up. I eat it and read it in a day or 2. So it's not something that, like, it seems big, but they're so easy to read that you just want, like, you breeze through it. So that one's not that bad. I add it again, As Long as the Lemon Tree Grows. I had this on my book, like books I want to finish before 2024, and for some reason I didn't get to it. I read so many things in 2024. I think I hit 155 books and I didn't get to it. So my goal is to read it this year. I want to read The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I've been putting off some of her books. Not for any reason in particular, I just always prioritize another book over hers. And I should, because people say her YA is really good. Like, if I liked better than the movies, then I will definitely like her other YA. And so I just need to give it a try, right? I haven't even tried her adult fiction, like romances, but I also feel like I don't know. I don't own any of them, so I just haven't made it a priority to read the adults, but I own both of her other, like Betting on You and The Do-Over. And I think The Do-Over comes first, so I'm going to read that one first and then read Betting on You. And then it's kind of funny because then I read Nothing Like the Movies already. I got an ARC for that, to be fair, so it wasn't like I went out and bought it. I will wait for the paperback to come out. I'll probably own it, but it wasn't, there was a reason why I got to read this that early. Next, I finally want to join the Chestnut Springs universe. The love for these characters is so strong, and I just want to know what the hype's about. So I want to read Flawless and at least start the series. Maybe I'll get through all of it if I really like it. Maybe I won't, but I just want to have an opinion. I want to get to the next Dan Brown series book. So I read, I think, the first 3, and I want to read Inferno, which is the next one. And they made a movie about it too, like a few years ago. It was not, right? Yeah, it was not very good. I'm excited because I really, really enjoyed the books. It's like a fun, thriller-y, like suspense, action. There's like a lot going on. It also gives you that scavenger hunt vibe that I really go for a lot in books. So I'm excited. Now, this is a book I'm really excited to have on this list and prioritize, and it is Mistborn. It's kind of funny. I feel like so many people last year read Throne of Glass, and now they're in their like Brandon Sanderson era, like girly era, and I am too. I want to read Mistborn so badly. My friend read it at the end of last year, and all she told me was it's Six of Crows and Throne of Glass together, but like a little more adult because they're older, the characters. And I said, I love that. I love that because those are some of my favorite fantasy series ever. Like, I think about Throne of Glass every single day still. So for it to be 2 of my favorite series combined, like, you can't even describe it any better or sell it any better to me. I want to read it immediately. But it's also like a whole series, plus then I'd have to get into the world, and so I'm a little nervous to get into it because it's just so many. But I also felt that way about Sarah J Maas, the fact that she had so many books, and I read most of them. I think I just have 3 Crescent City books left, so it's a lot less intimidating once you start. I want to continue the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy, so I'm going to read China Rich Girlfriend. I really enjoyed the first one. I love the movie. They finally released information that they're going to start either recording or doing the screenplay or something for the second movie. And so, what perfect time to actually just get the background information and jump ahead and read the book. So I'm pretty excited. I want to read Gone Girl. So I've had this book for a really long time. And for whatever reason, I've never prioritized it. Like, I would read like a chapter and be like, nah, I'm a mood reader, so if I'm not into it, I just move on. I want to go back and I want to read it because Gone Girl is Gillian Flynn, I think is her name. Gillian Flynn. And she wrote Sharp Objects, which is one of my favorite thrillers of all time. And people loved Gone Girl. They love the book and they love the movie. So I just need to read it, right? Yeah, so that's on my list. I wanted to mix it up and do a few I think I have a good variety, but you know, I had no thrillers in there, so I added one. The next one I want to read is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I read almost everything in her historical fiction genre collection in that universe, and I loved all of them. My friend gifted me One True Loves at least 2 years ago at this point. It wasn't this year, it was probably the year beforehand. And I never got around to it because the premise just sounds heart-wrenching already, with the idea of One True Loves. And I'm pretty sure it's about a girl who thinks her husband or boyfriend died, so she remarries or refalls in love, and then the original guy comes back because he's not actually dead. Ugh. I don't know. That already makes me like, ugh. Like, I don't know. So I want to read it though. Like I said, I'm trying to read the books I own. And I'm also trying to put some of these like one-offs, like standalones versus a whole bunch of series, because then like it just makes my TBR grow even more technically, or you have to buy a lot of more books. So I have a few series here, or continuations of a series, but a lot of these are just standalone books, if you've noticed. Number 22, I put If We Were Villains. Some people love it, some people hate it. I really actually like Shakespeare, and I've studied it a lot throughout high school and college, and even on the side I went to go and see a Shakespearean play in London in like the Globe, and so I took the time to actually like even study that book on its own, or the play. So I have a bit of knowledge on it. So the idea that this is like a dark academia based on drama kids with Shakespeare, I believe is what it is. It just sounds very interesting and also really different from what I've read. And I love academia books, like all of it. I love the dark, I like the gossipy, I like the rich, the elite ones. Like, they're all interesting because there's just so much drama that could be made from that. Rivalries and stuff, you know, it's not high stakes, but it's still interesting. Number 23 is Clap When You Land. This is a book that my friend gave me many, many years ago. I think it is a YA fiction, and it's about these two twins, and they're both Dominican, but one passes as white and one passes, I believe, as either darker, or she embraces her culture a little bit more, and they're separated, and it kind of just shows like the difference of how their lives are because of how they look and also what they embrace. But I'm not completely sure, so don't quote me on that. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure when I was choosing this list I read through it and I'm like, oh. So I'm excited. I'm Dominican, so it's kind of cool to read books about Dominicans, which I feel like is actually not that common. Number 24, I have Kingdom of the Wicked. I have a trilogy that's been sitting there for way too long, and for some reason I own all 3 books and I've not read a single one. So I'm going to at least start the series. It would be great if I could finish the series. I think that's my goal with a lot of these. I mean, no pressure on Dune Messiah or Red Rising, but I would love to get through, let's see, which of these are a series? I would love to read, actually, it's just Mistborn, Dune, Chelsea, Chestnut Springs, so I have a few, but still, I would love to finish that. It's YA fantasy, or is it romantasy? I'm not even sure, like, where it falls into, but I know that she created, like, a new series that has these characters, so you kind of have to read this trilogy before you start the new one. And I've heard it's pretty fun and interesting, so I look forward to reading these and seeing my thoughts, because I have never read anything by, what is her name? Carrie Mescalano. I think I butchered that so badly. I don't remember her last name. I know it's Carrie because it's Keri, which is also very interesting. Okay. And the final book on my list is Twisted Crown. I have been wanting to read this duology for a few months. I think I put it on my TBR at least 2 or 3 times, and I didn't have the time to do it. So hopefully I get to it throughout the year. So those are honestly everything I have for my 25 books in 2025. And right now I'm going to go over my January TBR while we're here, because I have a lot of books already planned for January, and I feel like I could do my January TBR today, we chat about it, and then next week I could do my December wrap up, and we go on and so on and so forth. Here is my January TBR, and I will go over it because today is already January 4th, and I have read one of the books, and I'm already on my second, so I'm making progress. So I have Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, which is one of my books of 2025. I have The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. I love One Last Stop. I loved it so much. Red, White, and Royal Blue is fine. I've liked it. It's cute. It's a cute, heartwarming, cheesy, like, romance. But One Last Stop will be the bread and butter out of their collection of their books. so far. So I'm excited to see about the pairing. I've seen very mixed reviews. Some people love it, some people don't like it, some people maybe it's not their cup of tea, so we will see. I have One Dark Window to start the Twisted Crown series by Rachel Gillig. I have The Wedding People, which is my current read, and it's also on my list. I did not know that when I put this on this list. I have Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and I will, spoiler alert, tell you, I actually finished it last night, and I think I spoke about this somewhere that I never got the Ali Hazelwood hype. I feel like she writes the same characters and just copy and pastes them. It's literally like this tiny girl, this giant guy, and just very awkward encounters throughout most of it. I don't find her very funny. The only thing I liked about it was that it was women in STEM and that they're intelligent. She actually writes about those things in her books, and I love that. But I read Bride, and I like her fantasy. Like, the world building was not heavy, but it was fun. I grew up as a Twilight girly, so like for me, this kind of just gave me exactly what I wanted as a girl who grew up on Twilight and vampire books. They were very trendy when I was in high school, and so I read Night World. The Vampire Diaries was a huge book series. Twilight was big. They had so many. It was like literally like the only fantasy that was going on around that point. I mean, it wasn't. There were others, but it was a huge, huge part of the fantasy world back in like that time period. Think like 2008 or 9 to 2012. And so I loved Bride. I will give you my full review when we do the wrap up, but I just wanted to mention that. I have an arc called A 5-Letter Word for Love by Amy James. I actually received that one for November and I didn't get to it, so gotta prioritize that and catch up. I have If the Ring Fits by Camila Isley, Big Borrower Steal by Sarah Adams, that I'm so excited for. I have enjoyed this series. What is the Kentucky Rome, Kentucky like series so far. I've liked those two books a lot. I think it's probably her strongest series, but don't take my word for it because I did not catch up on the second book for the cheat sheet, like her football team like series, because I know she came out with the second one. I didn't read that, but I loved One in Rome and I love Practice Makes Perfect, so I think I'm gonna look forward to this one too. And then I have To Hate Adam Connor by Ella Mays. And that is just, I think I went through it, but I hated, is it To Hate Jason Thorne? I did not like it at all. So, but I bought all the books, so I gotta get through at least one or two of them to create an opinion, and if not, unhaul them, you know? So that's my January TBR, and those are the books I want to read in 2025. I hope you enjoyed it. It feels good to be back. I know it's a little strange, probably you're hearing noises. My boyfriend's home. And this is a 1-bedroom apartment. And, you know, what can I do? But let me know what you want to read or what you're reading this month or what you're planning on reading throughout the year, because I would love to bump books up on my list if I own them. And if not, I do cheat sometimes and buy books that, you know, I don't really need, but I want. So let me know what you're reading. Let me know what your goals are for the year. My personal goal is to just read 85 books. I've left the goal the same for the last 4 years because in years that I don't read that much, I struggle a little bit. But like last year and the year beforehand, I breezed through that goal. So it just depends on my year, and I read for fun. So last year I introduced audiobooks, which is why I hit, I think, about 157 books. But towards the end of the year, I did not read any audiobooks. I was just not in the mood for them. And so my goal has always been 85. It feels comfortable. It feels right. It's just the perfect amount of push. You know, you have to read more than a book a week. And it feels realistic. I mean, I don't like to put 100. That would feel like homework. And I don't ever want to read because it's homework. So what's your goal for the year? What do you want to read? Let me know. I'll see you guys next week.